Are we up? Or did the YouTube get all of our chatter? Okay, mic check. Sound? Okay, ready to go? Guys, ready to go? Good evening. Welcome to the Village of Vernon board meeting. Today is Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. It's 7 o'clock. I will call the village board to order with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call and open meeting law compliance check.
Present for the village board meeting is President Carl Fortner.
Present.
Trustee Jim Sloney.
Present.
Dan DeGrave. Present. Lauren Dashik.
Present.
And Marie Kumashek has an excuse absent. Mr. President, the meeting notice were properly given and posted at the village hall inside and outside to the media and as a courtesy to other entities in the Village of Vernon and on the Village of Vernon website. This meeting is in compliance pursuant to the open meetings law requirements.
Thank you. And also present, we have Tom Tomasak of the Finance Committee and, of course, yourself, Sue Fish, your Deputy Clerk. Public comments. We do have a public hearing. We have one member of the public. Are you here for public comments or the budget?
I'm just here to learn.
Okay. All right. So there's no...
How nice to have a resident here.
So there's no public comments. Then I will read the notice for the Vernon proposed 2022 budget. Notice is hereby given that on Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. at Vernon Village Hall located at W249S 8910 Center Drive, a public hearing on the 2022 proposed budget of the Village of Vernon and Waukesha County will be held. The proposed budget in detail is available for inspection at the office of the clerk administrator from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and on the Village of Vernon website at www.villageofvernonwi.org. This notice was posted inside and outside the Village Hall at Vernon Fire Station Number 1 on Woodland Avenue and at Citizens Bank, the Vernon office. So with that, on the agenda, I open the public hearing. I give a presentation, take public comments and questions, take board members' comments and questions, and I close the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing, so I will welcome everybody to the public hearing on the 2022 budget. I will present the budget in order to save us a little money. In prior years, we paid our auditor to present the budget. I've been presenting the budget for the last couple of years in order to save a little money. Again, we are a village now, not a town. In prior years, we were a town and there was resident voting. This is our second year as a village. We're not a town. There's no resident voting. So the board sets the tax levy, the budget, the salaries of the elected officials and the employees. Historically, and this year is no different, we adopt the budget in summary form. That's what was contained in the public notice. By large categories of expenditures and not individual line items. The individual line items are for departments to follow and are useful in explaining variances from years to year and provided to the residents for transparency on their information. So everyone knows how this budget was created. So I will refer to the 2022 proposed budget summary as published in our notice and present the highlights, starting with the revenues. And of course, the number one item everybody's concerned about is the tax levy. The published amount is $1,929,776, and that number was set at the tax levy limit, which under state law cannot be exceeded without a referendum. The board can adopt the lower tax levy. On the agenda are two separate items when we get to voting regarding the tax levy. The first is to increase the tax levy by $9,441 to capture the unused part of the 2017 tax levy. That's the amount that in 2017, the Vernon board at that time the residents at that time adopted a tax levy slightly below the tax levy limit. So that can be made up this year, can be made up next year, but then after that it falls off. This is a separate vote. It requires a 2/3 majority vote. The second on the agenda is to adopt a total tax levy. This is a simple majority vote. And our auditor has reviewed and will prepare the tax levy worksheet. The mill rate, the tax rate or the mill rate is calculated by dividing the tax levy by the total assessed value, and we're up over $1 billion. We're at $1,018,765,500. That is also on the notice in the lower left corner. And of course, it's expressed as a dollar amount, in our case, $1.89 per 1,000 of assessed value. So when we look at our individual property tax bills, everyone should keep in mind that Vernon's share of the property tax bill is a small part of the total. The largest is the school district. The McGuanago School District is most of our school districts here in Vernon, is a separate taxing district and is approximately 60 to 65% of the total tax bill. We do show an increase on the notice from last year from $1.80 per $1,000 of assessed value to $1.89 assessed mill rate, tax rate per $1,000. We've been in the newsletters, if you've been following along, we did borrow some money earlier this year. It's all described in, I think, the last two newsletters, but more recently in the fall of 2021. And what we did was borrow money to refinance our old debt and refinance the interest rate from 3.5% to 1%, to just under 1%, or slightly above 1%, sorry. And then we borrowed an additional $1,130,000 for capital equipment, which we'll get to in the budget, how that money is being spent. And the capital equipment should be the bulk of our purchases for the next 5 years. That's the plan. Then in addition, we borrowed $1,270,000 for road improvement projects at an interest rate slightly below 2%. This is a longer repayment period. The idea there was to try and catch up to some degree on our road maintenance, which we've been falling behind. We have approximately 75 miles of roads, and even at a life expectancy of 25 years, and our DPW director would say, yeah, but it's lower than that, it's shorter than that. But at 25 years, to do the math, we should be doing 3 miles a year, and we're not. So we're trying to catch up a little bit this coming year, and I'll get through, when we get to roads and DPW in the budget, I'll get to what the board decided to do or what the plan is and what roads. So all of this debt together has to be paid back, of course. It's been structured so that to minimize the impact on taxpayers, and we tried to, and I predicted or promised, I guess is a stronger word, but told people that we'd try to keep it under 10 cents a thousand, which is $25 on a $250,000 home, and we came in at 9 cents. So I'm happy with that. So that's the tax. That's the most important part. Everybody's mostly concerned about the tax levy. Then we'll go through quickly go through the rest of the items. The intergovernmental revenues, I'm on the revenue at the top of the page. You see a pretty good increase there. Some of that is due to a contract to provide fire and rescue services with the Village of Big Bend. We did have one comment from a resident regarding our state video service provider payment with him stating, and he's correct about this, it was slightly understated. I did talk to our auditor about that, and he said, well, it's only $1,336. You can change it if you want, but it's not very critical. And in context, that's smaller than the average EMS ambulance ride bill. So I'm not concerned about that, but his point is well taken. Charges for services, that also is up. I think what we're doing there is we're expecting more charges for services due to building permits and planner chargebacks and attorney chargebacks and things like that because of development. And we're going to increase our ambulance transport fees slightly. And so that accounts for that. We're projecting, we're getting more and more billings and more collections with our new billing service. So we're projecting that as well. There's a small increase in the garbage and recycling. That's a part of a charges for services also. That's on the budget. That's calculated at $163 annually. This last year was $158.50. Small increase because our contract's subject to a CPI adjustment. I think there's a small increase in the tonnage that Karen's estimating. I looked at the numbers. I came up with 162. She came up with a 163. It's in the budget at 163. So I would say that we should stick to the 163 when we get to voting and in the budget. Interest income, you'll note that it's reduced significantly. That's because interest rates are virtually zero thanks to our Federal Reserve Bank and flooding the market with money. The transfers from other funds, you'll see that in 2021 it was zero, and in 2022 it's $1,422,000. That is part of our borrowing, and how the accounting for the borrowing works is so we borrowed the money. Under the terms of those debt instruments, it has to be in a project improvement fund. Why is that? Because we told the bond markets, the buyers of these notes and bonds, that this is how we're going to spend the money. We have to segregate it in a separate fund, which we have, and then we need to, when we spend it, we transfer it out of that fund to the general fund, and we spend it out of the general fund. We could have just spent it straight from the capital improvement fund, but we thought it would be better transparency-wise to run it through the general fund to make sure the public understands where the money's coming from, how it's being spent. So that's the revenue side of the budget. So we'll go to the expenditure side. General government is up. However, the board did freeze trustee salaries, so your government officials are making the same in 22 as they are in 21. There are 4 elections in 22, including governors. So you'll see that the elections is up, and of course we expect a strong turnout for the governor's rate. There's, again, I mentioned on the revenue side, charges for services, for development activities, building permits and planners and so on. We're showing an increase there. On the flip side, there's also going to be an increase on the expenditures because that's just, pass through to people using those services. The joint municipal court is in there too. Our share of the budget is $2,300. You'll see on the revenue side, we've budgeted for at least that $2,300 to offset it. I don't believe our joining the joint municipal court with North Prairie, and of course, I described that, and so did Trustee Solani in the newsletter, so you can read more about it there, will cost the taxpayers any additional money. Now, obviously, if you get a ticket, that might be different, so try not to get your tickets. We do have 2 looming issues in the future, not for 2022, the Center Drive Bridge project and the old landfill on the corner of Highway 164 and Edgewood Avenue. Those 2 are looming in the future, and with revenue limits or tax levy limits and tight budgets, those are going to be challenges. Public Works, you'll see an increased, public safety, you'll see an increase there. That is nearly all due to increased pay for our fire department personnel of approximately $90,000 in total. Public Works, you'll see an increase there too. Part of that is, 400,000 of it is for roads. And I mentioned before that we're trying to catch up on and maintaining our roads a little bit more in 2022. In 2021, we spent budgeted $350,000. Now we're budgeting $750 this year, so you'll see $400,000 increase in public works. And again, that goes back to the borrowing and how why we borrowed extra money for that purpose. Capital outlays. There's $744,000 in capital outlays. I have those, and I will. Well, first, let me back up. Let me just tell everybody what we're planning to do on roads. So we are planning to mill out and repave Sherry Avenue, Highland, Sunset View, and a second group of roads over by Hidden Lakes, Wagner Court, Lookout Circle, Lookout Lane, and Hidden Lakes Drive. And that's our scheduled roads that we're going to go out for bids for. Then the equipment, the $744,000 includes some remodeling and upgrades, replacement of some of the aging equipment in Village Hall, $210,000 for a new plow truck, $69,000 for a new skidster, $300,000 for a new ambulance, $65,000 for a paramedic pursuit car, truck, command vehicle, $50,000 for a fire department radio upgrade, and $30,000 for a new Argo, which at least $10,000 is going to be covered with a grant. So that's the schedule of capital equipment. Other items that maybe you don't see on here, there is a plan to sell our surplus equipment. For example, the ambulance that we have now, and when the new one is delivered, we'll have another one to sell. Also, residents should be aware that we do have this stormwater charge, special assessment on everybody's property tax bill based on the number of ERUs, if you will, or stormwater units. An individual homeowner gets charged one unit, and it's $23 a unit. Businesses and other churches and other people with impervious surface get charged based on how much impervious surface roofs and driveways that they have. And that's unchanged, $23 per ERU. We already went over the garbage refuge charge of a $163 per resident, so up for the CPI and a little bit on tonnage. So those are the two special charges you'll see on your property tax bill as well. ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act, we did have a resident question this. We did talk about it in finance. We did finance committee and also at the board level. We're getting a significant amount of money, $400,000, a little more than $400,000 this year, and another $400,000 next year. The trouble is with the ARPA funds is they need to be spent in accordance with particular special rules. Those rules are not yet final, and so they are not being accounted for through the general fund. So they're not going to be showing up on this budget summary because the resident asks, hey, where's the ARPA funds? Well, they're not on here. The reason why they're not on here is that the budget is for the general fund. The ARPA funds are accounted for in a separate fund because they can only be spent for very specific purposes. They're not part of the general fund. The ARPA fund has no fund balance, even though the Vernon received $400,000. The reason for that is, again, they have to be spent for permitted expenditures, and if they're not, they have to be returned to the government. Because they have to be returned to the government, they're counted for as deferred revenue. And so you got the money in and a deferred revenue on the other side of the equation, balance zero. So that's why that's accounted for as zero. We're going to budget for those or have a plan for those funds as soon as the rules are finalized. And that's going to happen. They haven't happened to date. And there's calculation where they calculate the money that maybe you should have collected based on a inflation or a 4% rate and compare it to what you actually collected and create phantom accounts and so on. And it's going to be complicated. There's 150 pages of regulations already, and they're not even final. So that's a little bit about ARPA. The general fund balance, we did have resident questioning the general fund balance as well. We do have a policy for the general fund that this board adopted, and the policy says it should be maintained at a level of 25 to 35% of the annual general fund budget expenditures. And both our financial advisor, Robert W. Baird, and our auditor has recommended a fund balance at this level. Some would say even higher. But using 3.6 million as our expenses, by excluding the capital outlays, 25% of that is 900,000. We are sitting at 638,000, so we are short. And so we need to actually increase that. The reason why that's important, they've recommended that, is in the event that we have or need the money for a contingency, or if we need to go out and borrow money and get a debt rating. That's one of the things that the rating agencies look at, your percentage. The higher percentage that you have, the higher your debt rating. The higher your debt rating, just like an individual's credit rating, the lower the interest rate. So we're going to have to go back to borrow money for fire equipment, DPW equipment, roads, and facilities at some point. So we need to increase that level. So that's kind of our general fund policy as well. So in summary, we'll wrap this up here. In summary, we have a $1.89 tax rate, which is approximately $475 on a home assessed at $250,000. You add to it $23 of stormwater, $163 for garbage and recycling, which puts an overall increase of approximately, I'd say, $25 to $30 on a $250,000 home. So that's where we're at. Public comments. Anybody? We have one gentleman here. Any public comment? You said you were here to listen. That's great. Board comments or questions? Trustee Solani?
Yeah, does this balance now? The last time I looked at, I didn't think it was.
Yeah, it balances. When we walked away, from our last meeting, we were sending it to our auditor and making sure the numbers balance. And by balance, you mean that the revenues equal the expenses, or saying that the other way around, expenses
Right,
equal
either-
revenue.
yeah.
Either way, and the notice that we published, it does balance.
Okay. I didn't have that sheet in front of me.
It's the last page in your worksheet. I hope.
Now you tell me. My other question then is, did we not get the 400,000 for this year
For ARPA,
for ARPA?
yes, we did receive it. And so we get the cash in, and for the accountants in the audience, debit cash, 400,000, you credit deferred revenue because it's subject to repayment,
Right.
400,000,
Oh.
leaving a balance in the fund, 0.
Okay, that's what I was looking for was
Right.
was the balance part. That's really why I asked it. We really are balanced.
Right. So there really is a 0 balance. Now, when the rules are finalized and if we can qualify for spending the money, we'll have a board resolution. And I think the Finance Committee has already recommended, based on this calculation of lost revenue calculation in the rules, that maybe we have 20,000 and we can apply it toward roads. And I think the Finance Committee has made a recommendation to apply it towards roads. The board doesn't need to really take action quite yet on that. We do have the recommendation when the Finance Committee initially went through that preliminary ARPA calculation. So as soon as we get that, what would happen then is 20,000 would be revenue, and then we'd have a $20,000 expense. Trustee, is that good?
Yes.
Trustee DeGrave?
Thank you.
A couple comments. First of all, great job with the Finance Committee. I think you guys did a good job putting all this together. I know you spent a lot of time and effort on it. So, great job on that. I have one question, and that is, fire department is our biggest budget, biggest chunk of money. Is the fire commission involved in approving that budget or working with that budget or anything else?
No, the fire commission really is responsible for overseeing of the hiring and firing of employees, and that's basically it. And any issues that come up, any suits or any issues with employee issues. That's what the fire commission's charge is, to oversee that. So,
So who monitors their budget, other than the
well, I
fire
think,
chief?
I think the finance committee probably could or should, more so than what we have in the past.
Those were my only comments.
Right, it is, yes, the details will show that is the biggest department,
Yeah.
dollar-wise.
It just seems like we really don't have a good handle on some of that, because he seems to exceed his budget in most cases every year. And I see in the accounts payable this month too, there's a lot of charges for fire departments. So obviously he's spending his budget.
I think they had some
Thinking that
issues
he
with
knows.
equipment this recently.
Right, there's two,
I'm talking about supplies and everything else that's
Okay.
going through here this month. And
Right.
It just seems like, okay, he thinks he's got a lot of money there, so he must be out to spend his budget, or exceed his budget, so I'm just concerned.
thank you. Trustee Dashik. Okay, Finance Committee, Tom, thank you for your service. Always appreciate it. So with that, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. It's, what, 7:28? Took a little longer this last time, or today, this year than last year, but I think we had more with the debt and the ARPA and the general fund policy and things like that, and the increases in the spending of the money, and I wanted to make sure the residents at least had the opportunity to hear our explanation and what our plans are. So we will get to the agenda, and first up is the budget, of course. And as indicated during the public hearing, we need to approve, if the board is so inclined, the adjustment for the prior year unused tax levy, which will require a 2/3 majority vote. I do have a motion drafted up, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the adjustment for prior year 2017 unused tax levy in the amount of $9,441.
What was that number again?
9441.
9441.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? Now, if the public wonders why we're not discussing much, is because we spent hours and hours and hours in finance and board workshops. So any discussion? Otherwise, we will take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. So we have 4 ayes, 4-0. And so we met the supermajority, and that passes. The next up is, and of course, we're doing this by separate motion because of the revenue limit rules, as pointed out by the Department of Revenue and our auditor. So we're doing this step by step. The next one up is the approval of the 2021 tax levy, and it's, so everybody's clear on it, the 2021 tax levy is to be collected in 2021 and 2022. It's always in arrears. So that's why we call it the 2021 and not the 2022. The bills come out in December, soon, and then you pay them. A lot of people pay at the end of the year, by the end of the year, or they're really due in 2022. And we spend the money in 2022, but it's called the 2021 because January 1st, 2021 is your assessed value. So we're looking for a motion to approve the 2021 tax levy to be collected in 2021 through 2022 for the general fund in the amount of $1,659,532, plus the adjustment for prior year unused tax levy, which we just adopted from 2017 in the amount of $9,441, for a total tax levy for the general fund of $1,668,973, and for the debt service fund of $260,803, for a total tax levy of $1,929,776. These are all numbers straight from the notice. If I said them right, I think I did.
Right.
So we're looking for a motion. Is there a motion? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I put on the agenda a motion to approve the special assessment for garbage recycling for 2022 in the amount of $163 per resident, and I'll make that motion.
What was it this last year?
158.50. So it's up $4.50, which is just under 3%. And we are subject to a CPI adjustment in our contract, but it's capped out at 3%. And the year before, we jumped it up $12 simply because of COVID and people working from home. And our tonnage, the amount of garbage collected, went up by 10%. The people are going back to the offices, but then again, then they're not. So we figure tonnage is going to be about the same is what we're estimating, but who knows? So that's how that number was calculated. So I'll make a motion to approve a special assessment for garbage recycling for 2022 in the amount of $163 per resident. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so then, next up is Resolution 2021-21, adopting the Village of Vernon 2022 budget. And you had it in your packet. I rewrote the third whereas clause to take into account exactly what we just did. So that third whereas clause was changed to the motions that we just adopted. But otherwise, it was as presented. So we're looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2021-21, adopting of the Village of Vernon 2022 budget.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Second by Trustee Dashik. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, good.
You need to have one copy passed around to be signed by everybody?
Yeah. Should I just use my copy? There we go. Next up on the agenda, the treasurer request to hire a deputy treasurer. From what I understand from our treasurer, who could not attend tonight, unfortunately, was he did offer employment contingent upon board approval, I would assume. But that individual turned the offer down. I think that he's looking at one or two other people, but he hasn't decided. So I had it on the agenda simply to get an approval if he was ready to hire someone. So there's no reason to take any action on this item right now. So we will go to correspondence, announcements, and report. We'll start with the village board president and village trustees. I'll start. I'm hoping everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. We do have health issues in Vernon. I just checked the DHS website. There's 33 positive cases in the last 3 days just in Vernon alone, which is running, if that continues for a couple of weeks here, that will be the worst couple of weeks since last year, right before Thanksgiving in Vernon, when 2% of the population of Vernon was infected with COVID at the same time. We have our issues here at the Village Hall, unfortunately, and we have several people suffering from COVID, and we ask that everyone keeps them in their prayers for a speedy recovery. And in the meantime, please be safe and talk to your doctor about getting vaccinated or boosted. Back on more business coming up, we do have Shared Services Committee meeting with the Village of Big Bend this coming week. We did have, I participated in a call I mentioned earlier in the budget presentation regarding the old landfill on Highway 164 and Edgewood Avenue. And there's a new owner of that landfill who is pressing to have that landfill cleaned up. and that will be an expensive proposition. After having sat there capped for the last 15, 16 years without issue, now there's issues. So stay tuned. I think we've talked about that at the board level, and unfortunately, it's coming in 2022 to some kind of hopefully resolution, but I'm not confident. I did receive a letter, and I'll give this to our deputy clerk. Maybe they can post it on the website from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation regarding the I-43 Rock Freeway public hearing that's coming up. This is going to be a resurfacing from 164 interchange all the way to Moreland Road. No timetable is set in this notice. It's just a notice. So we could probably put that up on the website. Public's invited. I know they've been just started to advertise it. I just got it. And what else do I have? This is our first board meeting after the tragedy, senseless, didn't have to have an Waukesha parade incident. That's why I have my shirt on for one of the young victims. That's my report. Trustee Sloney.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to also mention that, my condolences go out to the families and friends of the victims up in Waukesha on the Christmas parade. Hard to deal with. Two things. One, on the municipal court, we're trying to locate an auditor to do an audit for the municipal court. We'd like to do it on an annual basis. So far, we haven't had any takers. Evidently, a lot of the auditors are busy this time of year, I suspect, which may be part of the problem. But I am kind of heading up that search right now, so if any of you out there are auditors, give me a holler. And then secondly, just more for the board, you all should have copies of the employee handbook. It's completely updated and ready for your final review and possible approval for our next board meeting. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Trustee DeGrave.
Just one important thing, vaccines, I highly encourage, if you aren't vaccinated, please get vaccinated. I really, taking it firsthand, I really believe that it does help protect you. Other than that, I have no other report.
Thank you. Trustee Dashik.
I also would like to offer my condolences to everyone affected by the tragedy in Waukesha.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a horrible tragedy, and including people in our community and the little boy in our public school system. So, the Mukwonago public school system. It's not just Waukesha city people or anything like that. It's the whole county and throughout the area, actually. Our sheriff is here. Deputy, anyway. Anything to report? You're next on the agenda. You walked in, Waukesha County Sheriff's Report. We did receive from, the summary report earlier this week, and the board got it, and I think it's in summary form up on the website, I think, so. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have anything other than I tried to get here on time and had call.
Well, your calls are always take precedent. Any questions for our Deputy Hollingsworth? Okay.
I did on the stat sheet, it shows that you actually had 10 citations this month. Are those all going to the municipal court then? Is that how that works?
Should.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should all be going to municipal court.
Okay.
In fact, since October, maybe in September, they've been going to municipal court.
Is that on budget or on?
Yeah,
Plan.
actually, that's the exact number
You were looking for?
for a monthly, yeah.
Good job.
As it turns out, that's not the criteria to write tickets, though. No quota system.
Oh, that's true.
We're looking for compliance with our laws, we're not budgeting any money. And you'll see in the budget, we didn't budget money and reduce our taxes based on a bunch of fines that we expect to get, so. Treasurer's report, treasurer's not here. I don't see anything in our packets. He could not make it tonight. Clerk administrator, who's also ill and can't make it tonight. There's no report there. So we will go to finances, accounts payable, December 2nd. I did have there's two questions here, but one in particular, the Waukesha County Treasurer for the, and I think this one should be pulled for further information. This is the one in the amount of $2,931, not the sheriff's contract, but for stormwater education billed from Waukesha County. I recall signing a check a month ago with this amount, part of that check, and I'm wondering if it's a duplicate payment. And I think that one probably should be pulled, and it can always come back next meeting if for some reason it didn't get paid, in my recollection, or somehow it didn't get part of that check is incorrect. So that was the 29, that we can subtract off $2,931 from it. And if you look at the invoice we're paying, the invoice is dated October 12, due date November 11th, and I recall we're at our first meeting in November paying it, so we can take it off and then do some further research on that. The other one, this Teleflex LLC, $861.50. I saw invoices that added up to $849 even, so I'm not sure. It's off by $12 if I was missing page 2 or if there's a third invoice. That I did not see any tax. That could explain it too, and then we shouldn't pay the tax. So this is Teleflex, in your packet, and this is a Vernon Fire Department. Thank you, Tom. A Vernon, and Ward, you can leave whenever you want to. Sorry about that. Good night. Telefax, I saw one for, this is Fire Department, of course, $299 and another for $550, both approved, signed off for the Fire Department. Those add up to $849. But on each case, they do say page 1 of 2, and I don't have page 2. So I don't know if there's additional numbers on that or not, but I flagged those as didn't add up to the check. And I apologize, we are short-staffed at the office, and I'm short-staffed at home getting agendas and as much information out as I possibly can, given the situation in the office this week. And Thanksgiving, holidays. So Sue is looking for that. Home Depot Credit Services, I noticed that it's not the amount that's on the bill, but then I do notice it's only the current charges, so I think we paid, and that was the balance. Although it wasn't really clear from the invoices, but I think that's right. Our codification is on there. I think that's within our motion. And I think that was my only questions. Anybody else have anything else? You've got the...
Yeah, it's free.
Oh, it's freight, and it's on page 2, I bet, huh?
Yeah. $4.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just didn't have page 2. $8 on one, and I don't see the $4, but there had to be freight on the other two. Okay, so that one's probably okay. We're going to pull the Waukesha County Treasurer's 2931 bill, stormwater. Dan, Jim, you both hit your,
I was gonna make the motion.
Oh, well, I have a bunch of issues.
oh, you have a bunch of
Well,
it.
you.
Pro Health Pharmacy transfers, monthly invoice. The invoice is actually for $587. Somebody wrote on here, previous balance $477.93, which is added into it. However, there's no,
There's a second page.
okay, well, there's no second page.
Here's a second page.
So
want-
okay, so,
Is it correct? Are you sure we haven't paid that before? Those are.
We always-
some of those
we
things
always
that are
check
on the previous-
When we do the billing, we always check to make sure we don't pay them or not. So that one was not paid.
yeah, that's just getting the second page in on
Yeah.
the package.
Yeah.
On both of these cases, really.
What's the date of that invoice?
It's always
Ninth.
fire department.
So September.
Yeah,
And
it's,
the bill-
it's always fire department.
Yeah, I guess that was my biggest issue here is that most of these invoices that we're approving, or most payments we're approving are for invoices that are dated October or prior. And they all seem to be from the fire department. Or the
Yes.
majority of them. If it's true, or if, according to the village clerk, that the auditor insists that we record where the services are provided, since we just went through this budget process, that means our numbers in prior months are changing like crazy. So when we look at the budget and it says first 8 months, and the remaining 4 months, those first 8 months' numbers are constantly changing, because we've got invoices that we're paying.
Right, we have invoices that were not timely submitted for payment.
Correct. And then she's going back and posting them in prior periods.
Which is what the auditor said.
Well,
Yeah.
But how can you work with budgets and with numbers? It's-
I understand.
They're constantly moving on you.
That's more of a systemic issue with the fire department.
Yeah, which means that several of our payments are late, and I don't know if we're paying for finance charges and late fees as well, because they're probably buried in here somewhere. It always seems that DPW bills are always current and they're timely. So the difference between the departments. We've got 7 employees for full phone reimbursements. So now it's obvious that every single one of them are $600 or more for the year. And I'm not sure that we got an answer yet to our question about IRS reporting requirements. But I hope that we get an answer before the end of the year, because that's important come January 1st. There's no expense documentation for those phone reimbursements. We talked about that. So I'm hoping that that needs to be documented. And I'm hoping that that gets done before the first of the year too. Who's entitled? What is the reason? What's the amount? And what are the IRS rulings with regard to reporting? I really believe that needs to be addressed. The other thing is the village clerk has 6 months of phone reimbursements according to our employee handbook and policies. It's not in accordance with the policy. Job-related expenses are supposed to be processed within 20 working days with receipts. So everyone else in the village gets reimbursed monthly. I don't know why we've got one person that's reimbursed on a 6-month process. So I kind of argue that. I don't think we should be paying for 6 months at this point, but if you feel that the employee handbook kicks in January 1st, then so. The other thing that I have an issue with is who's responsible for reviewing and approving like the administrative invoices? Primarily municipal law, FOF, all the big dollars amount.
And the attorney fees.
Yeah, the attorney fees, municipal.
Yeah, the attorney's fees, right.
Is anybody looking at those? I mean, I look at them and I think they're out of line, but I don't know if it's in accordance with our agreements. I don't know if these things were actually done, and it was really highlighted when the Alexes were here contesting their bills. So I'm just wondering who's looking at those bills and who's saying they're okay.
I agree with that question.
So I have a hard time approving accounts payable based on these things that I gotta go through every month.
Mileage should also be submitted monthly, not,
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm guilty on that one. But it'll change.
Just don't submit.
It'll change January 1, 2022. On the professional fees, we all should be looking at those.
We all do approve the invoices.
And we all do approve it, and if there's issues,
Yeah.
if it's, but if there's issues with respect to what can be charged or how much they're charging, I mean, they tell us their rates, and what they look at, we try to be as judicial as possible. The meeting we had with the Alexes, notwithstanding, that's their view on it. Some board members maybe share a similar view. But that kind of thing we should have a sit down with the lawyer or sit down with both
Right, or what, yeah.
at
Because
a staff meeting or whatever, because,
there are so many issues with that where you just don't understand, we just don't understand what the bill is really for. Yeah, it's on this particular subject, it's, an attorney research on something.
Give you a good example,
But-
review documentation for our village staff meeting. And there's like, review village board meetings for the staff meeting. I mean, if we have a staff meeting, why?
he's preparing for the staff meeting.
Yes, but are we requesting him?
Yes.
To review our minutes, review our agendas? If so, okay, but, I mean, it just seems like
Well, that
there's
was,
so many charges for a staff meeting.
understood. That was where I was going before I was so rudely interrupted. I'm just,
My apologies.
I'm just
Not by me for a change.
for change. Is that we don't understand. And I think we need to get it clarified. If we send them a copy, are we in fact asking him to review it and give us a legal response? Is that what that really means? Just because we send them a copy so that he's aware of what we're doing?
Well, if he has docs on demand also, does that mean because he goes and looks at it?
Right.
it's
And that's the
fine?
part we don't understand. Because then we could make a decision whether we really need him to do all that. And the same is true with fourth, on some of these things, although I think most of the stuff that gets sent to our planner, we need him to review it in pretty much detail as well. Just like we do any contract, where we're exposing the village to any liability at all, those kinds of things have to be reviewed, And it's just that I think that we don't necessarily know with certainty that, okay, just sending him a copy of it or making him aware that that issue exists can and is costing us money.
I think everything that we want reviewed, we should send with a notice that we are requesting a review.
Well, that was where, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I don't know that that's not happening. We may be sending this stuff to them and asking them to review it all the time, and it's just showing up that way, you know.
But who's
It
asking
just
them?
surprises me that there are so many $30 charges. That's, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know what, you know, how can it always be $30? So I agree with the original
So
contention.
that's all I had as far as my
Okay, so,
comments and issues with the council.
so I'm just making a note for the staff meeting. We need clarification on duties, scope of review, items to review. I don't know how
Yeah,
else to
because
say it.
The
Yeah,
process, what's the process?
Okay.
Exactly.
The review process of it.
right. I know on the big items like the contracts, for example, this week we had Board of Review, or sorry, Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals. I mean, on Monday, someone didn't, they wanted a variance from 75 feet setback from wetlands. The Board of Appeal denied that request because he wanted it down to 19 and it could have been as low as 12. But we had a hearing and, you know, testimony and all that kind of stuff and reached a determination the same night, actually. And there needs to be a decision written. Well, who's going to write the decision? It's a legal document. John Macy, the attorney, is going to review it. But one time, and his question today, when we had a meeting, a telephone call on the Plan Commission, which we do, agenda, which we do ahead of every board meeting and also Plan Commission, was, well, should I get started? And the answer is no. I mean, we need to get clarification on who does what before it even gets started. And so if we send a contract over, we do say, now it's, you know, subject to, now you need to review it. And there's times where we adopt as a board, subject to legal review, and then he gets it retrospectively. In my view, we need to get the substantive issues decided on, the policy issues in those contracts decided on as a board before it goes to legal review, and then send it to legal review, because I don't want him to do it over and over. Oh, we changed our mind. Well, you got to start all over on your legal review then.
It's basically management.
Yeah, it's management of your outside legal bill. So we'll put that on staff meeting to get that process, if you will.
Thank you.
Questions?
Well, I agree. I don't believe all agendas and minutes need to be reviewed.
Yeah, we can talk about that too, and why that's important or unimportant,
Unimportant.
in your view, important in others. Okay, so I have for batch 2021 I guess it's 1201, we will reduce it by the Waukesha County Treasurer's invoice for further research by 2009-31. So I get 59,
3562.
015, 62?
35.
Oh, 46, no? No, 61, 946, 62, subtract 2931, I
I'm
get
sorry, you said-
59015.
946?
946, right?
Okay.
Did I
Then
say
you're-
that?
Then you're good.
Okay. 946 minus 931 is 015.
Yep.
So I've got batch 2021-1201 in the amount of 59,015.62. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? I'll second. We had a lot of discussion. Any further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 2-2. That means the motion fails. Do you want, somebody want to propose a different motion so some of these bills get passed? The motion fails.
Motion, yeah. See, I'm concerned, I don't know what the ramifications of not paying these checks in a timely fashion is. You know, I don't want to see I voted obviously for it, to approve it, primarily because I don't want to see us get late payment penalties.
That's what would happen.
Right,
Exactly.
and there are Wisconsin statutes that say municipalities must pay their bills. So,
I make a motion to pay all the bills that are timely. The ones that are not timely, we postpone until we have more information.
which ones would those be?
Well,
The staff is not going to be able to determine which ones are timely and not timely.
I think we've already had a question on the phone bill for 6 months instead of being submitted monthly. Dan, do you have any other specific ones?
Well, we've talked about this several times with regard to the phone reimbursements. We don't have any ruling with regard to reporting. We don't have any policy in place or anything. That's why that's an issue with me being the last month here, and it's going on for 6 months. So I guess my feeling is, no, none of the phone reimbursements and the attorney's bill, in addition to the Waukesha County invoice. All else I'm fine with.
All the phone bills?
The phone reimbursements, the employees, yep.
Well, there is a policy, we have agreed to pay those, so that's number one. And number two, the IRS does allow reimbursement of cell phones without
Documentation.
receipt, so long as they're reasonable. And in my mind anyway, when you go get phone service, it's about $60 a month. This is less. So by definition,
My phone's
it's reasonable.
$30 a month.
So mine's 62.
I have no idea what mine is. But the question is that taxable income or not?
No,
Why not?
because of the IRS ruling. That's why. I looked it up. I think I've raised that before. I've actually cited it before. I don't know it exactly off the top of my head, but it's there on the phone reimbursements. Now, the phone reimbursements would be for the village president, the DPW director, the administrator clerk, as opposed to the fire department, whose stipends include things other than phones. Those, and I think I've stated this before, I agree that is probably taxable income or part of it, and it's not being reported as such. So,
That was what my recommendation was too.
Finish this year out.
so if you want to hold the, is there any portion of the lawyer's fees that are you going to pay? Or are you going to hold back the whole invoice? And if so, for how long and how are you going to resolve it?
When's our next staff meeting?
2 weeks?
No, next board meeting is 2 weeks. Next staff meeting,
Oh,
I think
staff
is,
meeting. Oh,
staff is like in January,
Yeah,
usually. I don't know if we set a date yet or not. but
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I understand that the attorney bill is from October. And this is sort of like this is a big issue that we need to resolve, so it really doesn't have anything to do with this particular bill. So I guess, as long as it's within our budget, I don't even know if attorney fees are within budget. But if they are, I guess I go with the rate of paying the attorney bill.
I would make a motion that we pay the bills as presented for that total of $59,015.62. And put this subject on our staff meeting and direct the clerk or deputy clerk to send a letter to our attorney, to our town planner, and to the fire department chief, informing them that their bills need to be current, send in a timely fashion, or they will not be paid. Or some such verbiage.
Well, that's the invoicing timely invoicing issue. Is that all your motion?
Yes.
Okay, as opposed to what are we being billed for and why? Which is
Yeah.
different, which is different,
That's why I
Right.
started out putting it on the
Yeah.
staff meeting.
okay? Oh, that's the staff meeting
That
part
was
of it.
really
Oh, okay,
what I
got it.
intended, yeah.
And the letter was the second
Right.
part of or third part of the motion, sorry.
Because I don't think we can or should hold their bills without giving them a heads up.
Okay, did you get that motion?
I would also like to request that the village clerk get a written ruling or statement, maybe from our auditor, on these reimbursements.
That's part of the motion too? That would be
I would think
trustee
that is
Solani,
a motion,
part of the motion too?
yeah. Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, that was a long motion. Sue, do you have it down?
Okay, so Jim made it. Lorraine
Seconded it.
seconded it. Say your second part. What do you want?
Just what's
A
included
clerk, do you want the clerk administrator to get a letter
from the auditor on
auditor? Okay.
the IRS reporting requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know Sue's got the exact wording, but the way I've jotted it is approve the 59,015.62 it's gonna be on the staff meeting, timely submission of invoices by, send a letter and ask for IRS reporting from on the phone and other, whatever those monthly, I know what you mean.
Right.
Employee, monthly
Reimbursement.
reimbursements from village auditor. That's a summary,
Right.
right? Right? Do I understand it? Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, I had to think a little bit.
Call the question.
I will ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 You seconded it. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries 3-1. I just did that for,
I wanted to be that guy. That's what I tried the first time around.
Can I ask a question?
so long as it's on the agenda.
Well, it's in regard to the payment of phones or reimbursement for phones. If the residents are paying the bill for those phones, should they have access to those phone numbers? Can they call?
They're publicly available. Yes.
Not the clerk.
Oh, yeah.
On our website? The cell phone number?
That's
Did that just change? Because it wasn't in the newsletter or anything
on her
before.
card, and she gets all we hand out the card. And the voicemail says, you can reach me on my voicemail or cell phone app.
Okay, in the newsletter, it is not listed like all of our numbers are. So I was just wondering about that.
Call her office, it's on her voicemail.
And it is on the website.
And it's, I believe it's on the website and
662-2039.
That's the general number.
that's this number.
Office number.
There's no other phone number.
It's
Where are you
not her
looking?
cell phone number that's listed, it's the office number.
Do we have any manual checks?
That's for the clerk's office.
I don't think so. No manual checks. ACH transactions, I didn't see any in our packet. None? And did we ever get a November aging report, ACH report?
Clerk's office.
Okay. All right. This is a sidebar. Do I have to, gavel you for sidebars? Okay, back to the agenda. No manual checks, no 2021 ACH transactions that I saw, no November AR aging report, which is, I was interested in that too. I'm sure we will get those on December 17th, or 16th, sorry. Next village meeting dates, December 16th is,
Question? just
Yep.
Before we leave the checks, did we pull that check out of the pile for signatures?
Okay. They're all here now. So which ones am I all pulling here?
2931 for Waukesha County Treasurer, second from the end, and the others got approved.
Right.
Yeah, pull that one or put a sticker on it, don't sign it.
I signed it already.
All right,
You don't sign it.
I won't sign it.
I just wanted to make sure we pulled it.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's. It's usually before I start signing, if we do that, I will go and
You
find
don't
it.
want me to write void on it yet, though, right? Or-
Well, I'm thinking it will be voided, but let's not do that quite yet.
Let me check it tomorrow.
Okay,
I have this, but you need Marie's signature on it. Yeah.
well, wasn't here, so check with Ms. Shu of whether we need that, her signature on a resolution where she had an excused absence. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's validly passed, so
Right.
yeah. Next village meetings, December 16th, 2021, our regular board. We do have a joint Plan Commission Village Board meeting next Wednesday, 7 PM, December 8th, 2021. It's a rezoning request, and we've got Newman, the Hine property down on Edgewood Avenue is coming in with a proposal that the board should really listen to because it's a significant proposal. And we also have a final certified survey map that the board has to approve as well. That will be on the agenda. Then we'll adjourn the village board, and the plan commission will continue on into the night with conceptual CSMs, a second conceptual CSM, and a hobby kennel license. But we stack the agenda for the board matters
Up front.
up front,
I will not be able to attend.
okay? It should be on YouTube, and you can listen to it on YouTube. Either
So
later,
later, right?
sure.
I have another 7 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, later, yeah. I mean, so you can keep informed on, plan commission and board.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second? Second by trustee Dashik. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.